Ghost signal. The silent arrival. The lonely observatory at Outpost Zenith 9 sat at the edge of hegemony space, its sensors scanning the eternal darkness between stars. For decades, nothing of interest had passed through this remote sector. Senior observer Tulloch had grown old at this post, his scaled skin losing luster with each passing cycle. His kind, the Vespari, were methodical and patient, perfect for the monotony of deep space surveillance. Another empty shift, Tulloch muttered, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he prepared his end-of-watch report. Then the proximity alert shattered the silence. At first, he assumed it was a sensor malfunction. Nothing unregistered entered hegemony space. Not since the Great Unification centuries ago when the last resistances had been crushed. He reset the system and ran a diagnostic. The alert sounded again, more insistent. Tulloch's finger hovered over the emergency beacon. False alarms had ended careers before. But something in his ancient instincts, buried beneath generations of civilization, whispered danger. The object appeared on his screen, massive, battle-scarred, and moving with deliberate purpose. Its design matched nothing in the hegemony registry. No identification signal. No response to automated hails. Unidentified vessel, this is Hegemony Outpost Zenith 9. You have entered restricted space. Identify immediately or face interdiction. Silence greeted him. The vessel continued its steady approach, unconcerned with protocol or threats. Tulloch activated the quantum relay, his voice trembling slightly. Central Command, this is Outpost Zenith 9. We have an unregistered vessel of unknown origin. Configuration suggests. Wait. The computer had finished its analysis, matching the ship's profile against historical archives. The result flashed on his screen, impossible and terrifying. Central Command. It's human. The hegemony trembles. High Executor Nithronax stood motionless in the grand strategic chamber of the Eternal Spire. Behind him, the capital planet Vexthor gleamed with the artificial perfection that had defined the hegemony for millennia. Before him, a holographic projection showed the impossible vessel now detected by 17 different outposts. Explain, he demanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Strategic Director Voryx bowed his elongated head, the neural implants at his temples pulsing with stressed calculations. The vessel matches designs from the human hegemony war, specifically their dreadnought class. Designation, Harbinger. Impossible. Humanity was purged 3 centuries ago. Earth is a radioactive wasteland. Nithronax's voice remained steady, but his inner membranes flickered with agitation. The historical record is clear, Voryx agreed carefully. But the ship is undeniably of human manufacture. And it is not alone. The hologram expanded, revealing 6 additional signals emerging from the darkness of deep space. A fleet where no fleet should exist. They've been dormant, Voryx continued. Perhaps in some form of extended stasis beyond our detection range. But they are active now and on a direct course for the Arcturus research station. Nithronax's eyes narrowed. What is housed at Arcturus? The uncomfortable silence that followed spoke volumes. Human artifacts, Voryx finally admitted. Recovered technology. Experimental weapons. Biological samples. After the war, certain elements were preserved for study. Against protocol, Nithronax hissed. By order of your predecessor, Voryx countered softly. Nithronax turned to his war minister. Deploy the 7th Fleet to intercept. I want those vessels destroyed before they reach any populated system. No communications, no warnings. Erase them. As you command. The awakening. Deep within the lead vessel, preservation systems hummed to life after centuries of dormancy. Cryogenic chambers released their seals with deliberate precision, venting clouds of preservative gases into recyclers. Admiral Darian Frost opened his eyes for the first time in 300 years. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, every cell in his body remembering how to function again. He gasped, choking on the biofluid that had kept his tissues viable during the long sleep. Easy, Admiral, a calm voice said as mechanical arms assisted him upright. Neurological reconnection in progress. Motor functions will return momentarily. Through blurred vision, Frost saw the ship's AI interface, a simple blue hologram in the shape of a human skull, a reminder of their mission. They had named it Memento. Status report, Frost croaked, his vocal cords struggling to remember their purpose. Operation Lazarus has entered final phase. All vessels reporting nominal function. Crew revival proceeding at scheduled intervals. We have been detected by hegemony outposts as anticipated. Frost nodded weakly. That was according to plan. Stealth had never been their goal. They wanted to be seen. They needed the hegemony to remember. And Earth? He asked, though he knew the answer. No change in status from our departure. The homeworld remains uninhabitable according to long-range scans. Radiation levels consistent with historical data. Frost closed his eyes briefly. Earth was still dead, then. The billions lost would remain lost. Only vengeance remained. Wake the command staff, he ordered, and prepare to receive the hegemony's welcome. Memento's holographic skull tilted slightly. They have already dispatched a battle group. Estimate interception in 64 minutes. Frost managed to stand, his legs trembling with the effort. Around him, other chambers were opening, releasing his fellow ghosts from the past. Men and women who had volunteered for this one-way mission, knowing they would awaken to a galaxy where everyone they had ever loved was centuries dead. He walked slowly to the command console, where tactical displays showed the approaching hegemony forces. They were more advanced now, their ships sleeker and more numerous than in his time. But that had been accounted for. Have they attempted communication? He asked. No. Their approach vectors suggest immediate hostile intent. Frost's lips curved into a grim smile. Good. That means they remember what to fear. He activated the ship-wide communication system. His voice would reach every vessel in the Ghost Fleet, every survivor of Earth's fall now awakening to their purpose. This is Admiral Frost. The time has come. The hegemony believed they had erased us from history, that humanity was a closed chapter in their glorious empire. Today, we remind them that some stories don't end. Some debts cannot be escaped. Some ghosts return. He looked at the tactical display, at the massive hegemony fleet rushing to intercept them. Remember Earth. Remember what they took from us. Today, we collect payment in full. The dreadnought Harbinger surged forward, its ancient weapon systems powering up for the first time in centuries. Behind it, the rest of humanity's vengeance fleet followed, silent and determined. The reckoning had begun. Empire of Lies. The Council of Panic. The Grand Council Chamber of the Hegemony hadn't been convened in emergency session for over 70 years. Now, representatives from all 18 founding species gathered beneath the floating crystalline dome, their faces illuminated by the shifting light patterns that indicated extreme distress in the collective governance AI. High Executor Nithranax stood at the center, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Around him, counselors whispered urgently, their translator implants creating a susurration of anxiety that filled the chamber. Silence, Nithranax commanded, and the room fell still. The reports you have received are accurate. 7 vessels of human origin have penetrated our outer defense grid. The 7th Fleet has engaged them near the Arcturus sector. Elder Counselor Zilphara, her tendrilled face creased with age, leaned forward. How is this possible? The human extinction is foundational history. Their resistance was crushed, their homeworld rendered uninhabitable, their colonies assimilated or sterilized. The Great Cleansing is taught to every child in the hegemony. Evidently, said Science Minister Javrik, his exoskeleton clicking nervously, our history requires revision. Strategic Director Vorix activated the central holographic display. The chamber darkened as a three-dimensional battle scene materialized. The hegemony ships, over 30 modern vessels, surrounded the 7 ancient human warships. The display zoomed in on the lead vessel, the dreadnought called Harbinger. These ships appear to be from what humans called their last fleet. According to historical records, this fleet vanished during the final battle for their homeworld. It was presumed destroyed, Vorix explained. Presumed, hissed Counselor Draz, his reptilian voice dripping with contempt. 3 centuries of presumption. The hologram shifted, showing the battle in real time. The Council collectively flinched as the human vessels executed a perfect formation maneuver, breaking the hegemony encirclement with shocking precision. Their technology should be primitive by our standards, Javrik noted with professional curiosity that belied the danger. And yet, a blinding flash interrupted him as one of the hegemony's most advanced destroyers disappeared from the projection, atomized by weapons far beyond what humans should possess. The Admiral's Gambit. Admiral Frost stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching the battle unfold with the cold calculation that had made him Earth's last great military leader. Around him, his bridge crew, awakened mere hours ago from centuries of sleep, worked with grim efficiency. Enemy formation breaking, reported Tactical Officer Reina Valente, her dark eyes fixed on the displays. They didn't expect us to have jump technology. 300 years of advancement, Frost mused. And they still think linearly. He turned to his executive officer. Commander Hartmann, status of the fleet? Hartmann's scarred face remained impassive as he consulted his terminal. All vessels operational at 92% or above. Minimal damage from enemy fire. Their targeting systems can't seem to lock effectively on our hulls. That was by design. Project Lazarus hadn't just preserved humanity's last defenders, it had transformed them. The ships had been retrofitted with experimental technology, their hulls infused with particles that scattered targeting systems. Their weapons had been augmented with theories that military scientists had only begun to explore before Earth fell. Break through their line, Frost ordered. Make for Arcturus. Remind them why their ancestors feared us. The human fleet moved with unnatural synchronization, their maneuvering impossibly precise. Unknown to the hegemony, the ships weren't just connected by communication, they were linked by their AI cores. Memento coordinated across all 7 vessels, processing battlefield data 1,000 times faster than the hegemony systems. On the main view screen, a hegemony battlecruiser erupted into flames as the Harbinger's main cannon sent a pulse of energy through its reactor core. The enemy vessels were beginning to scatter, their formation dissolving into chaos. They're calling for reinforcements, Communications Officer Larson reported. Quantum transmissions to their homeworld and nearby sectors. Frost nodded. Good. Let them gather their forces. Let them remember fear. The buried truth. In a secure chamber beneath the council hall, Nithranax faced the Archive Keeper, an ancient Vex theory whose species had been among the founders of the hegemony. The chamber was analog, no digital signals, no networks, no way for information to escape except through living memory. Show me the true records of the human war, Nithranax demanded. The Archive Keeper's eyes, milky with age, regarded him solemnly. Are you certain, Executor? Some knowledge cannot be unlearned. The humans have returned. Knowledge is our only defense now. With gnarled fingers, the Keeper activated ancient mechanisms. A section of wall slid away, revealing a repository of physical data storage, crystalline cubes arranged in precise formations. The public history speaks of a necessary cleansing, the Keeper began, selecting a cube with reverence. It tells of humans as aggressive, unpredictable, a threat to galactic stability that required extermination. This is incomplete. The cube projected raw footage that Nithranax had never seen. Humans fighting not as aggressors, but as defenders, protecting refugee ships, sacrificing themselves to save civilians. Other images showed hegemony forces destroying clearly non-military targets, bombarding population centers, implementing what could only be described as systematic genocide. We encountered humanity during their early space era, the Keeper explained. They were fractious, diverse, technologically inferior, but adapting with alarming speed. The Council of that time saw not an immediate threat, but a future one. A species that might, in a few centuries, challenge hegemony dominance. Nithranax watched in growing horror as the true history unfolded. So we struck first. The preemptive cleansing was deemed necessary. Earth was targeted for complete sterilization. But humans, they fought differently than any species we had encountered. Not with superior numbers or technology, but with desperate innovation and sacrifice. The projection showed the last battle for Earth, billions already dead from orbital bombardment, the planet's surface glowing with radiation and fire. A small fleet gathered for a final stand, protecting the last evacuation ships. We believed we had exterminated them entirely, the Keeper continued. But there were rumors classified at the highest levels of a contingency plan. Something called Project Lazarus. And what, Nithranax asked quietly, was Project Lazarus? The Keeper's ancient face grew solemn. Their dead god risen. Vengeance from beyond the grave. The signal spreads. Throughout hegemony space, communication networks buzzed with confused reports. Despite attempts at information control, footage of the human vessels had leaked through military channels. On thousands of worlds, citizens watched in disbelief as ships from a supposedly extinct species decimated a hegemony battle group. On colonial worlds where humans had once lived, now populated by hegemony settlers, riots had already begun. Archaeological sites were being raided, ancient human artifacts suddenly valuable beyond measure. And in the darkest corners of the empire, on prison worlds and labor colonies, a whisper began spreading among the subjugated species. The humans have returned. If they can survive extinction, so can we. In his private chamber aboard the flagship Eternal Justice, where Minister Thorax received the desperate transmissions from the 7th Fleet, the humans had broken through. They were heading directly for Arcturus Research Station, the very facility that housed the most dangerous human artifacts and research. Deploy the 3rd and 5th Fleets to defensive positions around Arcturus, he commanded. Nothing gets through. And send word to the station. Purge all research data. Destroy all artifacts. Leave no trace of human technology. His aide hesitated. Minister, some of that research is integrated into current hegemony systems. Our quantum communications, our shield technology. I don't care. Purge it all. If those humans reach Arcturus and discover what we've done with their technology, what we've learned from their biology. He left the thought unfinished. Too late. The hegemony was beginning to understand. This wasn't just a remnant of humanity seeking revenge. This was a carefully planned operation, set in motion centuries ago, designed to expose the lies that the Empire was built upon. And aboard the Harbinger, Admiral Frost watched the stars streak by as they approached Arcturus, the first target in humanity's long-delayed reckoning. They're destroying evidence. Memento reported, its skull-like hologram flickering. Arcturus Station is initiating emergency purge protocols. Frost's expression hardened. Increase speed. They've had 300 years to study what they stole from us. We won't give them another minute. The human fleet accelerated toward its target, trailing fire and broken hegemony vessels in its wake. The Archives of Vengeance. Fortress of Secrets. Arcturus Research Station hung in space like a dark jewel, its massive reinforced hull reflecting little light. Originally built as a military outpost, it had been converted centuries ago into the hegemony's most secure research facility, a place where dangerous knowledge could be contained and exploited without risk to civilian populations. Now it was the center of frantic activity. Shuttles departed in streams, carrying high-value personnel to safety. Defense platforms activated around the station's perimeter, their weapons charged and ready. Inside, researchers worked desperately to destroy evidence of their work, purging databases and incinerating physical specimens. Station Director Ulnarax, a tall, gaunt member of the Vex Theri aristocracy, surveyed the chaos from his command center with mounting dread. He had dedicated his life to studying human technology, biology, and psychology, fascinated by a species that had nearly defeated the mighty hegemony despite their primitive development. Now that very species was coming for him, and the knowledge he had helped extract from their remains. Status of the purge, he demanded, his voice unnaturally calm. Chief Researcher Lorex approached, her scaled skin pale with stress. We've deleted 62% of digital archives. Physical specimens are being processed for incineration, but the integrated systems cannot be removed without shutting down the station entirely. Ulnarax finished for her. How much time do we need? At least 4 hours for a complete purge. Ulnarax's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in his species. The humans will be here in less than 1. Prioritize Section 7. Nothing from there can fall into their hands. Section 7, the true heart of Arcturus Station, where the most terrible secrets of the human war were kept, where the hegemony had conducted experiments that violated every ethical principle they claimed to uphold. Director. The tactical officer's voice cut through his thoughts. 2 hegemony battle groups have arrived. They're forming a defensive perimeter around the station. Ulnarax felt a surge of relief. Over 60 warships now stood between his station and the human fleet. Surely that would be enough. Then the sensors screamed a warning. A massive energy surge appeared just outside the defensive perimeter, impossible given the laws of physics as the hegemony understood them. The human fleet had arrived, bypassing the normal approaches entirely. The braking storm. Admiral Frost studied the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The jump had worked perfectly, positioning his fleet less than 20,000 kilometers from Arcturus Station, well inside the defensive perimeter the hegemony had hastily established. They didn't expect us to have that kind of jump precision, Commander Hartmann observed. Their ships are out of position. Advantage of fighting a war 3 centuries ago, Frost replied. They think they know our capabilities. On the command deck of the Harbinger, the battle plan unfolded with mechanical precision. 3 of the human vessels broke formation, engaging the scattered hegemony ships to keep them occupied. The remaining 4, including the Harbinger, accelerated toward the station itself. Their defense platforms are activating, Tactical Officer Valente reported. Energy signatures suggest modified human weapons technology. Frost's jaw tightened. So they've been using what they stole from us. He turned to communications. Broadcast on all frequencies, standard language package. He stepped forward, his voice cold as he addressed the station. This is Admiral Darian Frost of the Earth Defense Fleet. You possess stolen human technology and research. You hold the remains of our civilization. We have come to reclaim what is ours. Surrender the station or be destroyed. The response was predictable, a barrage of fire from the defense platforms. Energy beams lashed out, some connecting with the human vessel's hulls to little effect. They've had centuries to improve our weapons, Frost noted grimly, but they still don't understand how they truly work. He gave the order, and the Harbinger's main cannon charged, a weapon unlike anything the hegemony had seen before or since the human war. It didn't fire energy or projectiles in the conventional sense. It fired time itself, compressed, weaponized moments that aged whatever they touched by decades and seconds. The beam struck one of the defense platforms, which didn't explode so much as crumble, its materials aging, weakening, failing all at once as centuries of entropy were forced upon it in an instant. The infiltration. While the battle raged around Arcturus Station, a small, stealthy craft detached from the underside of the Harbinger. It carried a critical mission team led by Lieutenant Alyssa Reeve, a specialist in both combat and data retrieval. Her team consisted of 4 other soldiers, each augmented with technology that had been experimental when Earth fell. Remember, she briefed them as their craft approached a maintenance airlock. Our priority is Section 7. Intelligence suggests that's where they keep the crown jewels, the biosamples, the advanced research, and possibly survivors. The notion that there might still be humans, prisoners held for centuries for experimentation, was almost too horrible to contemplate. But Memento's deep analysis of intercepted hegemony communications had flagged concerning terminology, original specimens, and renewed source material. The infiltration craft docked with barely a tremor, its advanced systems bypassing Arcturus's security protocols. For all their advancement, the hegemony had built much of their technology on stolen human foundations that Project Lazarus had intimate knowledge of. Reeve led her team through the dimly lit maintenance corridors, encountering minimal resistance. Most of the station's security forces were occupied with the evacuation or external defense. Those few guards they encountered were dispatched silently and efficiently. Memento, guide us to Section 7, Reeve vocalized, the AI hearing her through the neural implant at the base of her skull. A holographic overlay appeared in her vision, highlighting the path through the station's labyrinthine interior. The team moved swiftly, passing laboratories where researchers were frantically destroying evidence. In one room, they discovered human artifacts being fed into an incinerator, artworks, books, cultural treasures that had been looted during the fall of Earth. Secure what you can, Reeve ordered one of her team, though she knew the true treasures, the knowledge, the biotechnology, perhaps even human lives, lay deeper in the station. As they approached Section 7, resistance stiffened. Elite hegemony guards armed with advanced weapons blocked their path. A firefight erupted in the narrow corridor, energy weapons scarring the walls and filling the air with the scent of ozone. The AI's response was immediate. The team's implants projected decryption sequences directly into the door's security system, forcing it open despite multiple fail-safes. What they found inside stopped them cold. The ultimate betrayal. The chamber was vast, far larger than external scans had suggested, extending deep into the station's core. Row upon row of stasis pods filled the space, each containing a human body suspended in time. My God, whispered one of Reeve's team. There must be thousands. Reeve approached the nearest pod, wiping condensation from its surface. Inside was a young woman, perhaps in her 20s, her expression frozen in terror. A designation marked the pod. Genetic source material 2279B. They're not just prisoners, Reeve realized with growing horror. They're harvesting them, using them for genetic research. The implications were staggering. The final transmission. Admiral Frost received Reeve's transmission with a face carved from stone. Around him, the bridge crew of the Harbinger fell silent as the images from Section 7 appeared on their screens. The evidence was undeniable that hegemony hadn't just committed genocide against humanity. They had preserved some humans as slaves, test subjects, and genetic stock. Get me a direct channel to the Hegemony Council, Frost ordered, his voice dangerously quiet. When the connection was established, he spoke not with rage but with the cold certainty of judgment. We have found your secret. Your empire isn't built on strength or wisdom. It's built on theft of our technology, our culture, our very bodies. For 3 centuries, you have used humans as laboratory specimens while claiming to have cleansed us from existence. He paused, letting the accusation sink in. The reckoning begins now, not just for Earth, but for every species you've subjugated or exterminated. We are coming for you, not just to destroy, but to reveal. Every world in your empire will know what their masters truly are. With that, he cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Set course for the Hegemony homeworld, and broadcast everything we found at Arcturus to every communication relay in this sector. Let the truth spread faster than they can contain it. As the human fleet disengaged from the battle around Arcturus, they left behind not just a damaged station but a shattered narrative. The Hegemony's lie, the foundation of their 3 centuries of dominance, was crumbling. And as the data from Section 7 spread across the stars, worlds that had lived under Hegemony rule for generations began to ask dangerous questions. Whispers of rebellion grew louder. The ghosts of humanity had returned not just for vengeance, but for justice, and they had awakened something far more dangerous to the Empire than mere military defeat. They had awakened the truth.